Isn't it interesting how the best form of propaganda for the right is literally just photos, videos, and edits of what our country used to look like 50 or 60 years ago? And what changed? What did we do in the 1960s? Well, we passed the Hart Celler Act, and we deviated from our previously long-held immigration standard, which was we want white Western Europeans in this country, pretty much only. And if you're going to have anybody else in, it needs to be done under a microscope, and it needs to be in very limited numbers. Of course, today, how dare you? This is so racist. People would bawl their eyes out at the notion of even considering this. But think about it. It actually does make sense. Every other culture feels the right to protect itself and to preserve itself. It's considered sad if a particular accent is going to die out, or if an uncontacted tribe is about to lose their language because they're losing numbers and becoming urbanized. And I agree, culture and language are beautiful things, and it's a tragedy when they're lost. They deserve to have the right to protect themselves. And yet the liberals will agree with this for every other culture and language and tribe and tongue under heaven, except when it comes to white people. When it's white people, the more whiteness, the more evil in their eyes. They actually consider it a positive social good that corporations hire fewer white people, that a governing board has fewer white people. That's what diversity means, just fewer white people. And so when you do this experiment on an entire civilization, you take what was a post-World War II booming economy, people were able to afford houses on relatively small incomes, single income families were extraordinarily common, people could have 2 cars, go on a nice vacation every year, buy a house and pay it off within a pretty short period of time despite a pretty high interest rate on the salary of a mailman. And you could retire fairly young and live out your days in peace. Today, that's not reality anymore. And could it be that the reason that's the case, at least in part, is that we're providing free goods to every minority on planet Earth who decides to traipse onto our borders? Same exact thing happens in Europe. I mean, you look at pictures of Europe from 50 to 60 years ago. You have a beautiful, thriving civilization, rich with culture and history, and today you go to those same beautiful places and it's a slum. There are tents on the side of the road, there are drug needles everywhere, there are little sellers, like you might find in a bazaar somewhere in Persia, selling things and probably defrauding you and cheating you. And yet you find them in our beautiful Western cities defrauding people. And that's just the nuisance level stuff, right? Rapes, murders, violence of all kinds, robberies, these happen in huge numbers, and a day doesn't go by that you don't see a headline of, British man brutally rapes young girl. And then you look deep in the article and you find out that this British man is actually from Pakistan. And he's got a name like Rajesh Kujalaromani or whatever. And it turns out he's not really British. He only showed up on our beach 3 weeks ago when he washed up in a boat that smelled like poop. Okay? So don't even try to tell me that this isn't an agenda they're trying to spread to decay our world and turn us into something that is less beautiful, less good, less Christian. Why do they care? Well, probably because the devil always hates the things of God. The devil always hates things of beauty. Now, I'm not ascribing satanic impulses to every liberal who's pro-immigration. I do sincerely think most liberals are doing it because they are empathetic people who hear the sob story of the oppressed migrant, and they've been legitimately deceived, and they think that it's kind of our moral duty to help them. And it makes sense if you don't know anything about history or politics or the role of man and your proper ordering of loves. In truth, the conservative loves first his own Lord, and then he loves his own family, and then he loves his people in concentric rings going out, whereas the liberal has it twisted. The liberal has the greatest and strongest feelings of affection for the people he or she hears about in a post on Facebook who are being oppressed a million miles away. And the love they have for God is often non-existent. The love they have for their family is usually tenuous, very stressed and terse and highly conditional. But those Palestinians over there, they would give their lives. They would self-immolate in front of the Capitol for the Palestinians, which is something that has actually happened. And so I think when you see our Western world, and it's in a state of decay, and anyone with a brain can pick up the pattern recognition of, why is it always a minority? We don't need to get all in a twist about racism and try to insist, it's not about race, I promise I'm not a racist, I actually want more immigrants. No, it's okay. You can say you don't want any more immigrants, illegal or legal. You can just say we don't want them here, and ultimately I don't care whether it's about race or whether it's about culture, whether it's about religion. I just don't want you here anymore until, in the words of Donald Trump, we can figure out what the hell is going on, in the immortal words of Donald Trump. In truth, I don't think you can separate those factors so neatly. I don't think you can cleanly cut off race from it. I think culture is probably the most succinct way to describe why a given group of people all behaves a certain way. In fact, that's really what culture is. It's a group of people who behave in a common way because of their common, background? And there's no denying that race is a part of your background. So I'm not going to be all virtue signaling and try to tell you right here, no, I promise it's not about race at all. Look, it is about race, okay? You can simplify it to race, but the cause is culture. And so all that aside, our country used to be very beautiful. The West, the countries in Europe, used to be very beautiful. Not without their problems, obviously. I'm not a utopist sort of when I look back to the past. We had our issues. But the underpinning of everything in our culture and civilization in the United States and in Europe was Christian. And that kept us on the tracks. Certainly, we veer to the right, we veer to the left. But a Christian tradition, a Christian civilization meant that while you'll have these conflicts, it is underpinned on a foundation of keep coming back to the center. And that's why we thrive. That is why the West has invented every notable development in science, technology, engineering that the world has ever had. If you trace a little triangle over a couple cities in Western Europe that includes most of Italy, I think some of France, and a little bit of Germany, every single significant human discovery for almost all of our history was discovered in that little triangle. There's something special about the West, and that is why there is a particular animosity that Satan has towards the West, and of course he has unwitting and some witting servants in the left who are willing to do his bidding and try to destroy us. And so do not participate in this. Call it out for what it is by any means necessary. I don't care if you want to make it about race. I don't care if you want to make it about culture, if you want to make it about politics, or if you want to take the libertarian route and try to be snooty and say, well, it's just about the GDP and the economics. We don't need these people here. They sap our resources, they sap our creativity, they sap our people. And generally speaking, the introduction of large numbers of immigrants is a surefire way to make sure that you had better lock your doors at night, you better not be walking out by yourself, and you better invest in some sources of protection because your community is about to go down the tubes. You have to stop it.